Hey, Rainbow here, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Anyway, I have the Ducati Multistrada V4S, and I now have 8,000 miles on this bike in less than 3 months. What does that mean? That means that when I'm not at my full-time job, I am pretty much riding this motorcycle, including recently on a long weekend with 3 other guys that all had Harley Davidsons. Anyway, let's talk about where we're at with this right after this intro. Oh yeah, once again, I don't have an intro. Like, do we really need to have an intro? I mean, what's the purpose? I'm a guy in his garage. Like, aren't they just like feel-good, deceiving things with these grand, fancy... Who needs an intro? Anyway, now that we're past that. So yeah, 8,000 miles. I don't want to have every video just about this Ducati Multistrada, but since I have a full-time job, it's kind of difficult for me to get away and actually go and do a review of other bikes because, well, I'm putting a lot of time on this one, and it takes a lot of time to put and edit these things together. But more importantly, what have I learned after 8,000 miles on this? And what have I learned since we spoke last when I had 6,000 miles on this a couple of weeks ago? Well, great question. Here's where I'm at. This is the best bike I've owned. It's a fantastic bike. I really like it. It's very nimble. The maintenance that I've done so far is, well, the initial maintenance that you get done at the 600 mile mark, which I had done at 720. Then I did it again at 5,000. I chose to do it at 5,000 even though it was serviced with the right oil that's supposed to be 100% synthetic. But because I'm in South Florida with the heat, I chose to change it at 5,000. There's a video if you look at my page if you want to look at that. And I'm going to change it again at 10,000. And at that point is when there's some more things that you have to do with this. But in the last 8,000 miles, other than changing my oil twice, well, I did it once myself at the 5,000, I have so far had to adjust my chain. I have a video on that. So other than adjusting your chain, which you don't have to do a whole lot after the first probably 2,000–3,000 miles, there's nothing to do with this bike. Just keep it clean and put gas in it, and that's it. I mean, keep it clean, put it gas, and go. Now, on to this trip with the 3 Harley guys. It went really well. We did about 1,100 miles in a 4-day period between going up and coming back. Spent a lot of time at every single Harley dealer. So that's what they wanted to do. They stopped, they get their little poker chips, they get their t-shirts and everything like that. And I'm always the outcast because I'm in a Ducati. And let me tell you, I was very comfortable, had a great time. Went up to the Leesburg area of Florida through Mount Dora, Leesburg, went all the way up to Gainesville actually, and some other Harley dealerships that we stopped at. Had a good time, did some kayaking, which is not relevant to this Ducati. But overall, keeping up with the Harley guys wasn't a problem. The problem was the Harley guys keeping up with me. Had some really good guys that I went out there with. One of them had a sport glide, another one had a street glide, and another one went up there with one kind of bike, and after the first night ended up trading it in on a Fat Bob. So I did ride his Fat Bob, which kind of reminded me of my Indian Scout. I will definitely take my Indian Scout over that Harley Fat Bob in a heartbeat. There's no comparison to how smooth the Indian is or anything like that. But again, back to this thing. Recently, 2 days ago, I had my update of this computer. Was not really told what it was updating. They gave me a screenshot of what was updating. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's kind of hieroglyphics. But there was an update to the computer. One of them did talk about EFI, so I know that's electronic fuel injection. Haven't noticed anything different with the bike. Didn't notice anything about connecting to the bike. Have a video. I have more than one video about that. But honestly, this is pretty much a relatively maintenance-free bike and very enjoyable. If I was to take it off-road, I would probably want it a little bit lighter than it is, because these bikes tend to be a little heavy for off-road, but those who are used to riding the GS or the Multistrada off-road, well, you know, you're used to it. But if I'm going to be off-road really for any significant amount of time, I'm going to want a little bit of a lighter bike. So it might be great for adventure, they're marketing it for adventure, but that's not important to me. I will trade this 19-inch wheel for two 17s in a heartbeat. I don't have a problem doing that. I believe that they might be doing that, something similar to that with the Pikes Peak version. Who knows if it'll come out this year, or by the end of the season it'll maybe be a 2022 model. But on the highway, after 8,000 miles, I've kind of determined that this does a pretty good job, this windscreen in the up position, but it doesn't do a great job. I don't think you're going to get that air bubble around you like with maybe a BMW R1250 RT, where the problem is you really get little to no wind, you're in your own bubble. This creates a nice little bubble, but I'm still getting hit in the shoulders and on the arms for sure. Still getting bug splatter on my face shield, on the helmet, and with it down is where I need to keep it in order to stay cool, because it's really hot down here in South Florida, and we're really into our summer already, to be quite honest with you. It's in the 90s. I wake up in the morning, it's in the 80s, it's muggy, it's hot. It's actually, I'm sweating in here in my garage. It's just always hot, so I kind of leave it down almost all summer, but if I'm going to be on the road, I want this up. If you're going to be on the highway a lot at higher speeds, I kind of do wish it was a little bit of a heavier bike. You have a tendency to get blown around a little bit, especially behind some of those semis. But that's almost any bike, to be quite honest with you. But those big, heavy-duty 900-pound Harleys and stuff, they obviously probably fare a little bit better. They have the big fairing in front of you. But it's Multistrada, which it's basically all roads. You know, many roads is what it means. And I think it's a great bike. What's nice is that when I did have to go into the, park in the grass and go through some dirt and go through some ruts, we had to go around a motor vehicle accident on the highway, and we all had to go off onto a ditch. I wish I had knobbies. I could have had a little bit more fun, but I was comfortable and confident, and the guys with the real low baggers, that were with me were kind of concerned that they were going to be scraping the side. So it's great because it's a really versatile bike. Would I buy this bike again at the $25,000 mark that I paid for it? Yeah, I absolutely would. 100% I would buy this bike again. There's still something missing with what I like. I wouldn't mind getting another Indian, but I don't want a big bagger. And the Scout Bobber like I had, it's just a little too small. I really enjoyed it, but honestly, when I got hit head-on with that bike, even though I had my high beams on and a turn signal, I just think that being so low and being so small, you're just not as visible to other drivers, which is one of the things with this. If I'm going to buy a Ducati, I'm getting Ducati red. I'm not getting the gray that they have or anything. So between all of the lights on here and how high you are, I just think you're more visible. I feel safer. So I wouldn't mind getting another cruiser, more than likely an Indian. I'm just not a Harley fan. I'm really not a Harley fan, and I test drove one and I just don't like the way they feel. I think everyone's got one. Not everyone has a Ducati. Not everyone has an Indian. So those are the two that I really like. But I would buy this bike absolutely again. I would consider in 2022, when they come out with the Pikes Peak version with a single-sided swing arm on it, I would consider trading this in for that. It really depends what they've done with it. Again, with this display up here, it would be nice if they had something like Apple Play that'd be a little bit more usable. But then again, I like the fact that it's limited, because even when I look down to change what song I'm listening to, I'm taking my eyes off the road in order to do that. And that's something that kind of makes sense to me, is that maybe that's not why they want to have something like Apple Play, because you are going to maybe get lost on your screen and end up not spending enough time looking at where you're going. This bike could easily go 150 miles an hour. I know that for a fact, this particular bike, and that's without the hard cases on. I really don't put the hard cases on as often anymore, because right now what I'm doing is I'm just enjoying the bike, and unless I'm going on a long trip, I'm not putting it on there. If I go to the beach, I strap to the back rack area that's there a beach towel and just small things. I mean, I don't really need, because I feel like I'm riding two different bikes. When I have the panniers on, those hard cases, I just feel like I have to be a little slower the way I drive. I don't feel like I'm as nimble. It is a little bit of a wind drag on the bike. You have to be careful with your speed, which we should be anyway, and for what the speed limit is on the bike with the hard cases on. It's still well above any speed limit in the United States right now. So it is a solid bike. I like it. I would buy it again. I've been virtually maintenance free. I've spoke about the two little things that I've had taken care of here with the recall. There was a little clicking in front that they had to put a little buffer or a little piece of foam on a canister that I can feel right now with my hand. So that's one thing. And then the other thing was the kickstand, where I forgot the kickstand was down when I backed the bike out of the garage, and I was getting ready to put the bike in the garage. I forgot to put the kickstand down. I jammed it in the first gear. It got hung up, and when I spun it up, I stretched out my spring, but apparently the spring was on wrong, and that was not a recall, but a service bulletin with Ducati. They took care of it the same day for me. It wasn't a problem at all. My local service dealer, local dealer for service is actually really good, and that's Two Wheels World in Pompano Beach. It's Fort Lauderdale essentially is where it is, just outside of south of Palm Beach County, but just slightly north of Fort Lauderdale in that area. So I'm happy. Everything's been good. I kind of have my whole display connecting to my phone, connecting to my Cardo kind of figured out. If you watch the last video on that too, it's been pretty consistent. I did have one issue, but I ended up just rebooting my phone and it fixed the problem. So before you think that it's a problem with the bike sometimes, you might want to update and reboot your phone, and that might take things to a better direction so that you can make this thing work. Yeah, 8,000 miles. I am pretty damn happy with this bike. Really, no major complaints. The seat is comfortable. I've told you before, I've had upwards of 9 hours in one day on this bike. I go down the highway at 70, 75, even 80 miles an hour, and I've stood up on the pegs without a problem. I mean, just stood right up because I needed to stretch my leg. My pants were bothering me. Had a wedgie. I wouldn't advise doing 80 standing up and then letting go with one hand to fix a wedgie. That I wouldn't recommend. Oh, and one more thing. Where your knees go here, they have like a little cross hatch built into the plastic fairing here where it's black. It's still slipperier than shit, to be quite honest with you. It's just too slippery. So this is one area that if I can get something black that would hold my knees better, that I would like, because you feel like you can kind of grip the tank, you can grip the bike with your knees a little better and tuck yourself in. These things are just way too slippery. They've been too slippery no matter what you're wearing. Maybe if you wear motorcycle pants that have like grippies, you know, on your knee or something, that would work. But overall, honestly, I'll say it again, it's a great bike. Well, enough ranting from me. I am going to try to work on test driving some other bikes. I actually have coordinated that. It's just a matter of me finding the time before it gets dark to actually do that. Anyway, Rainbow, I am out here. Have a great day and take care.